Many of us are on here.
You have your
26.
that I'm going to start recording, ladies and gentlemen. Nebraska is one party state.
Test. Test.
Yes, test. I can hear you, David. Can you hear me? Hold up your hand.
Yes.
If it's 5. Okay. All right. More people are joining. I'm going to grab my highly technical piece of 1x2 here. And I'm going to... Welcome to the August 2020 Omaha Astronomical Society meeting. Oh, you know, I should be doing my slides for this too. Hang on. I'm going to click this and that. And I got slides. All right. There we go. Now, we'll take a moment for our meeting here. If you have headphones, please use them. Please remember to mute your microphone when you're not speaking. If you have it configured, the space bar can act as a push to talk button. If you do not want to be seen, you can mute your video. You can change your view to the side-by-side during the meeting, so you can kind of see the screen as well as people. There is also a speaker view, but when I'm presenting, it kind of puts people in a block on one side. You can raise your hand using the icon at the bottom of the participants list. Or you can try to put it in the chat. We'll try to monitor the chat for you. And to file a motion, the way we do that is you please unmute and state your name. So we have that for the minutes. And when we're voting, you can raise your hand. So the raised hand could be on the computer, or we'll try to capture. Since I can't see everybody on the screen at once, we try to use the computer, or you can put I in the chat one way or the other to get your message across. Do we have any guests tonight? You can unmute to speak.
Like I'm a guest, I'm Dave Smith, but I fully intend to join. So tonight I'm a guest. Hopefully the next meeting I'll be a full member.
Welcome, Doug.
It's Dave.
Dave, sorry.
Yep. Thank you.
How did you hear about us?
Honestly, I was searching online for Omaha astronomy clubs, and I was pleased to see that there was an active club here in town. I live in Dundee. Been kind of a lifelong enthusiast, if you will. And I'm excited to just participate. Nothing else.
So, do we have any other guests tonight? Well, Dave, as a member, of OAS, you'll be a member of the Astronomical League, and you will receive the Reflector Quarterly Magazine. You will get access to Astro Park, which is our observing site in just outside of Weeping Water, Nebraska. We have a great telescope loan program where you can try out a telescope, do some observing, and experience the different types of telescopes that are available in our wonderful world of astronomy. Our monthly newsletter, the Stella, and it's got a whole bunch of information. It comes out every month. Kind of keeps you abreast of everything that's happening in the organization, as well as upcoming meetings and other events, as well as a Discord server that we have set up for members to converse and collaborate. Now, I'm sure we've had a lot of people at Astro Park in the past month. Bill, you've probably been down there?
No, actually, I have not. Oh. I was at the non-Nebraska Star Party.
Oh, okay. Anyone else at Astro Park in the past month?
Tony here. I went down there 3 times actually, early July. So.
Okay. Let's see. Stafford, myself, and Mike Gallagher were there on the 11th. So that takes us up to well, if you're going to count every time, I guess that's right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I was there 2 more times.
2 more. Oh. Hi, Mike. I didn't hear you come in.
John, there were several people on the Discord that said that they had been down there. I think Tony maybe said it, but weren't there a couple other people that said it on the Discord?
That's true. I'm trying to remember who got all the way there and forgot their laptop and couldn't operate their scope.
That was Aaron,
Was
right?
it Aaron? Okay.
It still counts.
Yes.
Oh, God.
I'm going to put that as 11. Now, there really isn't much about upcoming dates specifically, but, you know, Neowise is waning and our summer constellations are going to be changing soon. But on August 11th, the Lowell Observatory is having a live stream of the Perseid meteor shower. So if you want to do a screenshot of this link, I'll you know what? I'll also put it in the chat. How about that? There. Now you could open it and bookmark it for later use. I also saw an email late this afternoon that the folks at itelescope.net was going to be doing a live stream as well, mostly around comets. And I can't find that link. Oh well, that's okay. Awards chair. Are you?
Oh, it's me. I still have Janine. I just found your paperwork that I got mixed up with some other things. I still have to fill it out and get it sent in, but that's the only one that I'm aware of at the moment.
When did it get sent in?
No, it hasn't yet. I just found it like a couple, 3 days ago. It got mixed in with some other things, and so it hasn't been sent in yet.
Oh, okay. Just start.
But I will get it in like probably this weekend. I have the weekend off from work, and so I'll probably get it in this weekend.
Thank you. No rush.
All right. My apologies.
That's okay.
John, could you put up the live stream again?
Sure.
I want to take a picture.
I realized I hadn't opened up
There we go. Thank you.
observing chair slides, so I was trying to find them.
Thank you.
Okay. Everybody gets to watch the drawing. All right, I got it. Hang on. I didn't. Oh, there they are. All right. That's better.
Not open.
I got it. Sorry. I normally try to pre-queue all those, but okay.
All right.
Our
So
observing chair.
welcome to August 2020. We have a wonderful lineup of planets, depending on when, whether you want to stay up or get up or stay up all night long. You could see pretty much every planet that we can. So Jupiter and Saturn are obviously very, very visible right after sunset. Most start off in the southeast sky, and then as the night goes on in the southern sky. At the beginning of this month, we had the moon that was close to Jupiter and Saturn, and you'll see that again on the 28th of August, when Jupiter and the moon and Saturn form, I think, a triangle or are really close together. If you can figure out where Pluto is, it's right between Jupiter and Saturn. I tried to look for it, and there were multiple dots. I have to figure out which dot was Pluto. But now you can also see Uranus after midnight, and you should be able to see it with binoculars if you're not right bright in the city lights. Neptune rises after 10 p.m. early August and then closer after sunset late August in the eastern sky. Mars is very visible, rises close to midnight. And on the 9th of August, that should be this weekend, Sunday, about a degree from the moon. So that should be a nice thing to see. Venus, of course, shines brilliantly pre-dawn in the east, and on the 15th, that's close to the moon. Mercury is visible, but it does have its superior conjunction on the 17th, so it will then disappear. Next, we have the moon. Full moon was on August the 3rd, and new moon's on August 18th. And this is a picture I took that's not of the full moon. It's on August the 2nd. That is the moon.
That's a beautiful picture.
Thank you. Coming up, of course, John mentioned the Lowell Observatory site for meteor showers this month. We have the Perseids, which are the remnants of Comet Swift-Tuttle. It comes around every 133 years, and I think we figured out it would be next seen in 2025, I believe. It was last year.
21, 25.
Sorry,
21, 25.
Sorry, I knew that sounded close together. Because I remember thinking I won't be around for that. The peak is on August 12th, and you should be able to see a maximum of 100 an hour, but of course it depends on how cloudy the skies are. So you may not see 100 an hour. Comets is, we know Neowise is still there. It's very faint. Now it's fading as it's heading away from the sun. It is circumpolar. And as of last couple of nights, it's close to Coma Berenices. So I tried to look for it with binoculars. It just looks like a little green hazy spot. And as you can see for the month, sunrise and sunset, sunrise goes, from 6:19 a.m. at the beginning of the month and close to 6:50 a.m. Sunset is now earlier at the end of the month, so the days are getting shorter. All that means is more darkness for observing. And I think that's all there is.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sonali.
Yay!
Thank you, Sonali.
Outreach.
Okay. We're going to do inReach, I guess. Yeah, there's really everything that was planned for the public events, of course, has been canceled. Our usual Tuesday night would have been on the 11th. And we had originally, I don't know if I even brought it up before, but the Hitchcock Nature Center had wanted to have something on the 14th, and they emailed me here over a month ago and said they were canceling out of that. Let's see, is Eric on yet here? Eric Balcom? Don't think so, right?
No, let's see.
There he is. Eric,
Yeah,
there we are.
Yeah.
Mahoney, did you?
Oh, I haven't. No, I didn't get a hold of
You get a
Cassandra.
chance?
So
Okay.
I'll let you know later. I didn't get a hold of her today. So
As part of the NSP sponsorship, we had Mahoney on the 28th, but we need to just see what the Mahoney State Park, what their rules are. If there would be some chance of having it, we'll get the word out later on that.
yeah, I'll send you. I'll
Yeah.
send. I'll tell you, John. And can you just send an email out to everybody?
Yeah, I would send it out to everybody.
Okay. Thank you.
But that was the extent of me doing anything with the public. Now, at our board meeting last night, we talked extensively about trying to reach in, which is a great idea. John had some ideas, and Steve, I don't know if Steve, if you wanted to, anybody else can jump in and talk about it a little bit.
I think that the idea of inReach is good to practice. I mean, it's a little disheartening to have a good telescope and not be able to use it. So I'd really encourage you to try to go out and explore a little bit. And I've been trying to, lately, I've been trying to beat the drum for what I call wandering. Trying to take my scope out and just practice with it, not with the idea of looking at a particular thing, but rather just an arbitrary direction in the sky and just kind of wandering a little bit. If you have a good way to visualize what's a map of some kind or an electronic device, visualize what's there and just let your curiosity take you. Just wander a little bit. There it is. So anyway, I think that's a good effective thing to do if we can't have our usual outreach. We'll just try to in-reach.
That's sort of what I'm doing. Can you hear me, anybody?
Yep.
Yes. I can hear you.
I've got this map and it features 600 objects, and I'm going through grid by grid, you know, right ascension, declination, each has a little square, and I eventually want to look at everything on this map that's in that little square.
What will you do the second night, Janine?
Oh yeah, right. Well, even the Messiers can't all be seen in one night. Well, maybe they can.
So I was thinking about something along the lines of bingo, where you kind of have a list of your objects and then you cross each one of them off. You know, you make your list and cross them all off, and then you could say bingo. Like in the next meeting, if you say bingo, we know you got your list done. Now there could be more than one list, right? Everybody has different ones. But I don't know if there's any creative people who would like to make a bingo card, and we'll get a little dauber as we get each object.
There you go.
But you know, we've got Eric's guide in the Stella that talks about the skies. Maybe you could have a square for I saw a Perseid, right? Now, there are many meteors that can happen. So you got to kind of know, is it coming from Perseus, to know if it's that specific one. So there's a little bit of a challenge, right? It's just challenge just like bingo is. But if you wanted to do groups, we want you to be careful and safe, distancing, masking. Try not to cross equipment between people. Just want people to be safe. If they want to pair up and do something, you know, that's fine. Just please be safe. Nebraska today was indicated as a red zone state. I'm not talking about the Huskers, but the infection rate, unfortunately. I'm having some success with my camera attachment. So I would like to try to do some virtual outreach as well using the telescope. So maybe I can try to come up with a date and then send it out as an email to people. Maybe John could do that part of his outreach list to individuals. If one or two of us can get cameras set up and running one night and just take people on a tour of some sort.
Now, we would obviously have to have the Zoom thing set up. Is that something either you, John, or Krista could do?
I could set up a different one. That's not a problem.
Okay.
I have an account that I could make one.
And that's not a problem for me to do something as a cooperative thing also.
Okay.
I already have an October date for Girl Scouts. They want to do a Zoom 8 p.m. virtual star party.
That's good. I like that.
So that's I think it's the Friday after our October meeting or September meeting. I'll send you the information, John and John.
Okay.
Okay.
So if I go back to Sonali's slides, new moon was the 18th, which is a Tuesday.
Well, basically anything starting next weekend, and
Okay. Maybe the 14th or 15th. So.
Yeah, I mean the last quarter is what? The last quarter is the 11th actually. So anything later on then, yeah.
Okay.
We won't have to worry about moon.
Maybe.
And we still have Jupiter and Saturn. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It'll help me test my camera as well. So we'll say tentative. We're all learning. We can all learn together, right?
All right.
Get back to my slides here. Stafford is next. Telescope and binocular loan chair.
Yes, we've had a little bit of activity this past month. Excuse me. Couple scopes went out. The where are my notes here? There we go. Yeah, the 4-inch refractor went out, and the better 8-inch Schmidt Cassegrainian also went out to Reed Sherman. 8-inch Ryan Dobb came in, and I have a reservation standing to get it back out again, possibly this weekend. So got most of them are checked out at the moment, and that's the good news here. That's about it.
Stafford, this is Rodney.
Yo.
Do you need that Coronado back? I mean, has there been any interest in that Coronado that I have?
There was until they canceled the Star Party.
No.
No, so nobody's camped out in my front yard for it. So,
okay, very well.
Are you wanting to turn it back in, or are you still using it?
I'm still using it here and there, but I could turn it back in. I might. I could probably use it a little more. So, yeah, we'll keep it till like next meeting at least, and we'll discuss it then further.
All right.
Now's a great time to look at the sun. There's a big spot moving across the disk.
Yep, that's true.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah, I
Steph.
saw that like online the other day. So,
Lee, as they say, breaker 19, you got your ears on?
Yes, I do. I've got my ears on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. So our program tonight is presented by Doug. And I'm really sorry, Doug. I'm not sure how to say your last name. Is it Kalpa?
You got it. Kalpa.
It is Kalpa? Okay, nice. That kind of reminds me of the Kuiper Belt. But tonight's presentation is going to be on space exploration with a special focus on Uranus.
Awesome. That's pretty cool. I don't know if we have any tool times in the audience right now. Do we? I did not bring any show and tell. I have a few things I want to mention before we go to the program. There's been a policy change at UNO that starting next month, we have to put passwords on the Zoom meetings. So we're going to update the entry in the Stella to put the password in there. And I hope you'll be able to remember the password because it's OAS. So I think you can remember that, right?
All capitals.
OAS, all capitals, no spaces.
That's only 3 characters.
Hey, we got to make it simple, right? It took it. You don't have to have the name your first pet or your mother's maiden name. It's just OAS.
Yeah, I checked it.
Too hard to remember.
But yeah, I'll have to update my sheet that I give Steve and make sure it gets put into the Stella. Well, wait a minute. Yeah, it's in the Stella that way. I was thinking back about, we don't have the link on the website. Right. I wonder
No,
if,
we just have it on the Stella.
do you
And,
think,
and remember, the meeting ID remains the same, will remain the same
yeah,
through the end of the year, Krista?
Yeah, I actually booked out the next 12 months. I just had to add a password.
do we, since there's going to be a password on there, do we need to discuss real quick whether we want to put the URL of the meeting on the website if nobody knows the password? But I mean, OAS is kind of easily guessable. I'm entertaining thoughts.
Are we that secretive?
Yeah,
There was a number of things called Zoom bombing where people were jumping into meetings and doing
heard about
horrible things.
Yes.
I mean,
Their
if it's
other suggestion is always to throw a waiting room on.
Mm.
But since I don't know everybody or everybody's ID,
That's not easy.
I gotta close this.
I think we should continue to just advertise it the way we've been doing it.
Yeah, I agree. Let's keep it to the Stella.
If anybody wants to join, all they do is have to contact any OAS member, and you could forward the link and the passwords on.
Yeah, I might.
I mean, you could post that if you wanted on the Facebook going, if you're interested, contact the president or any of the exec board.
I'm thinking that we might do a separate email from the Stella to say, hey, meeting coming up tomorrow. Here's the link and the password. Because it might, if they're not reading every page in the Stella, they may miss it. And the email might help.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't want to send too many emails and people like, you're spamming me with your 2 emails a month.
Well, I did notice this time in the OAS that the link to the meeting was not blue and underlined. So it was a little harder to find if you didn't know what you were looking for. And since it didn't look like a hyperlink or a hot link, maybe people didn't know it was. I saw the arrow and I scanned over it, but scrolled over it. But
Okay.
so I don't know whether an email would be helpful, but to have that view as a hot link would be helpful as well.
Okay. I'll say URL highlighted for Steve. I just wanted to bring that up now before, I mean, we'll mention it again in the business meeting, but I wanted to try to get it to as many people as possible right now. So, I don't know. Do we need to take a break or are we going to go right into our program? Doug, how are you feeling?
I'm doing good. How's everyone hearing me out there? First off, am I too quiet?
Good.
Have you
Very well.
screen presentations before, Doug?
I'm used to Microsoft Teams. I believe all I need to do is share the screen. I got my slides ready to go, and then we should be rocking.
Okay. We all need to like stretch, get ourselves ready.
How about a short break?
You want a
I'll
short
grab
break?
something to drink.
Okay, let's do 5 minutes. How's that?
Okay.
Okay. You still got time, Doug.
Quick, run.
So Rodney, the echo coming from are in both meetings.
Yeah, and you know what? I was just looking here. The only one that I'm getting on the other meeting, and I don't know why.
That's because the other meeting was the board meeting for last night. And you're technically in September board meetings window now.
See, and I didn't see thing for. See, and I got it turned off. There you go. I'm just going to power off.
So I'm gonna probably just kick you out of the board meeting.
All right, yeah, because I was trying to switch from my tablet to this, and I couldn't figure out how to get it to come up. So, all right, then I just turned my power off on my tablet. So
Okay, I'm gonna end meeting
I
for
was wondering
all.
why, I was wondering why I was hearing you twice. I was like, what in the world is going on?
Well, I had a lot of links, so I thought I'd go in and check to make sure everyone got out. You know, it's now a half hour into our meeting, and you're the only one sitting in there. Usually there's one person every month that jumps onto the wrong link. They get the go to the exec board meeting link.
Yeah, see, and I couldn't find the new one, so I figured, well, it's the same link, but it'd be great
Nope.
for me. So,
I've got 2 different rooms going.
okay,
Now you're kicked out and just in the one.
okay. All right, great. I'm gonna go get something to drink too.
Okay, Kim did find the right link. Good deal.
All right.
Oh, I didn't see Lee's note. Sorry, Lee.
Do we want to take care of Lee's tool question? Or Lee, do you want to wait till the end?
May have stepped away.
He might have.
I was thinking back to Steve Skinner's presentation he did on the spectrum. He handed out the diffraction gratings to people.
I got one.
I'm curious, does it work on the webcam? Boy, that makes the background kind of all messed up, doesn't it? It doesn't exactly work very well. Can I put it in front of my
Kind of works better if you have a point source of light, John. There you go.
Yeah, it's a bit bright. Plus, that's LED, so it's going to give me full spectrum. I keep that on top of my desk to play with. I thank you for that. It's been a nice trinket to have when I'm thinking.
Did you get batteries for your phaser yet?
No, it's still a dud. They're supposed to come in the mail this weekend, so it's nice. It actually the Type 1 comes off the Type 2, so you can
That is super cool.
Yeah.
Hope you get that set to stun.
Yeah. Be like the episode of The Cage. Nothing happened. Well, yeah, you blew a hole in the side of my office. Lee, what was your question about tool time?
Okay, so I have a question for this generally everyone. I am trying to fix my dumb 9-inch Dob and I don't have a back. And I don't really want to build it, if I'm honest, for the mirror. So I have the mirror, I have the tube, I have everything, but the back that holds the mirror and adjusts, you know, all that crap, it's gone. And so I'm just wondering if anybody knows where you would. I've been trying to buy one. I'm like, I would just buy one if I could, but if not, if anyone has ever built one or knows about where to get plans to build, I guess probably an entire Dob, but I really just want to buy it back. I'm wondering if they just sell the holders, but I couldn't find one online, and I'm wondering if anyone's had the same problem.
I have had to rebuild my 8-inch mirror. You're talking about the mirror cell, right?
Yeah, the mirror I have, but yeah, the back of it that holds it and adjusts it, all of that is gone. It's missing.
Like that?
Yes. Yep, pretty much just like that. I mean, I would like one, if I'm honest, that had, you know, everything on the bottom, on the back of it, instead of off to the side like that, but, you know, that's just personal preference, I guess.
Lee, okay, well, first of all, a 9-inch, that's a pretty odd size.
It could be 9 1/4. It was, I did not make it, but I bought it off of someone who made their own. So it was not a store-bought to begin with.
Okay, because that's not a standard size. So what John was showing there, yeah, if somebody wanted to jump and make one, I mean, I've had plans over the years to make one just out of some plywood and some springs and bolts and everything, but you're almost looking at a custom job to make one for a 9-inch. What's your tube diameter too? That's another thing that's a factor.
Oh, gotcha. So this is on MakerBot. Do you can
Universe. It's a 3D
thing 13222. Okay.
I'll put it in the chat for you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
If it would help, I made one many years ago out of 2 layers of plywood. Used some Baltic birch and put a pretty substantial hole in the middle. 9 inches, you could probably still get away with using silicone adhesive as a means of fastening to your cell.
Yeah, just a 3-point thing would probably still work all right with.
Yeah, and you could probably leave it fairly open in the back for good airflow and still have good support for your mirror. Probably.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there was any way I could avoid building it and trying to look at just, because it's just one part. I'm like, I would rather buy it, but it does not look available online, so.
You can probably build one for in a couple of weekends worth of work and a fairly reasonable price.
You know, something else you might consider is there's a couple of people like Ken Fiskus or Randy, what's his last name, out in Astro Systems. I don't know if he's still in business.
I don't know if Cunningham still makes anything or not. Yeah.
I don't know if he's doing anything like that, but you might maybe.
Lee, what is the largest town that you are near?
Ogallala.
Ogallala, yeah.
All right, here's what I would suggest. Ogallala probably has a high school, maybe. Yeah. Yes?
It does. But you know what? I mean, if I have to build it, I can build it myself. I have a shop. I mean, I have access to the tools. I can just do it. I was just wondering if anyone knew of some place you could buy them. But, you know, with schools right now,
yeah,
I would I don't know. I don't know if they're even, we right now have just pushed back schools, so I don't even know if they're going to be there. But, you know, I mean, as far as building it goes, I can build one. I was just wondering if anyone, I don't know, knew of some place you could just buy parts like that. And I couldn't find any good places online to buy parts.
Well,
Casper
yeah,
Systems?
I think
Sorry, what?
Ken Fiskus is your best option. Just give him a call and he'll set you right up.
Ken Fiskus.
well, he's up in Albert Lee, Minnesota, but he's a regular at the Star Party, and a bunch of us know him, you know, as a dear friend. So
I think Kim Moss Allen has a Daub base that he made.
I'll try to share his email in the chat.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
The picture that you're seeing is my friend's telescope that he made in San Francisco in the late 60s with John
Nice.
Dobson. This is almost 10 years ago. And we had to build a new base for his telescope.
My parents said that for Micah.
Yeah, boomerang.
It's like a little kitchen table, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, he ground his own porthole for that telescope.
Nice. Awesome.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Doug. You're
Are we
calling.
ready?
Come.
All right.
Doug is starting.
If I could share the screen. Right. Okay, can you all see what I see? A bunch of planets.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
And I always like to start off my briefings with a quick question. Why does Beethoven dislike chicken? The answer is because all the chickens do around him say bok, 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 bok.
Yep.
Oh, that was good.
With that, we'll get started tonight. All the background images, such as this one you see here, is from NASA JPL. The last slide, slide 30, shows you locations from their photo journal. Another question for everyone. We all tend to think 7 is a lucky number, right? Well, not so with a planetary status. For example, quick, what is the 7th planet from the sun? Well, hopefully y'all can count 7 here. It's right in front of us. But nope, it's not jeweled Saturn. And no, it's not the king of planets, Jupiter. The answer is also the 3rd largest planet of the solar system, Uranus. And of course, the planet's name is not even lucky, right? Is it Uranus? Is it Uranus? Haha, giggle, giggle. Whatever. So, okay, I got a funny bone. A little bit about myself real quick. Doug Kalpa, went to the Air Force Academy, graduated in 95, flown around the world in tankers, at the top of your screen there. Spent a few years here, believe it or not, starting off as a navigator in the late 90s, and that's how I ended back here, because my wife, Wendy, she's from Council Bluffs, our house, coming live from about a mile from Council Bluffs Airport right now. So we're on the east side of the town. I'm originally from Michigan, and you can see my kids, Alexis and Nick. These fellows are a couple years old, but you can see what we're into here without a doubt. So, giggles aside, Uranus receives little respect as it's not the largest, most distant, nor most picturesque planetary system in the solar system. Perhaps this is why only one earthly visitor spent more than 5 hours zipping past a Azure planet in 1986. And of course, 5 hours, that's about the same amount of time as a college student returns home to do laundry, grab lunch or dinner, and then they head back out. So that space tourist back in 86 was Voyager 2, and don't forget, it was carrying along mid-1970s instrumentation. So the 5 major moons, as we see here, that's about the best that we got for a few hours. Let's see here. So 1986 really wasn't that long ago, but nearly half the human population was not born 34 years ago. So why has no space agency returned to the true blue ice giant? Did Uranus disappoint astronomers and the public in the 86 close-up? In this image, NASA thought Uranus had cloud features and more colorful rings. As we head to the next slide, this is what Voyager 2 actually witnessed approaching the big, bland blue orb. But before we head to the next slide, I want to say thank you to Voyager 2 for all these stunning pictures of a world knocked on its side, spectacular images of the second most complex ring system in the solar system, and splendid photos of reassembled moons. And these are some of the things we're going to get into. So what can we expect to see if we're closer to Uranus tonight? Let's head over to slide number 4. So this is Uranus and natural color composite image of the planet and its ring systems taken during January 2386. Combines a single frame color image of Uranus and 6 frames for the ring system taken a few hours later. However, the rings here are significantly fainter relative to Uranus. The rings are charcoal black and they're near the limits of naked eye visibility of a human observer at this distance. So the rings, pretty dark. Planet, as you see here, kind of bland. The color image of Uranus shows given more cloud detail than the previous Voyager 2 photos. That's because Uranus clouds are dominated by high altitude hydrocarbon haze that hides cloud belts, similar to Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune at most visible wavelengths. The underlying clouds are most visible at red and near infrared wavelengths, which we can't see, neither could Voyager's camera. They didn't bring the appropriate equipment with them. So let's see Uranus using a different set of eyes in slide number 5. So these 2 images of Uranus are actually from the surface of the Earth, compiled on July 11th and 12th, 2004 from the Keck telescope using adaptive optics. Don't know if you all know, but adaptive optics uses flexible mirrors to compensate for image distortions caused by atmosphere. Stars twinkle in our smaller telescopes due to the different atmospheric temperatures, winds, water vapor throughout the column of air, which the starlight has to filter through. So this is the best that we're going to get from the ground. A little bit hazy, but we can see there's clouds out there underneath the haze of Uranus. In a little bit, I want to talk about how to observe Uranus with our small yet mighty telescopes and even binoculars. This leads us to slide number 6. So this is what we want to do. Cover observing Uranus. I don't know if I have time to get into all 5 topics here in the overview, but I'll definitely make the top 3 there. So how can we best view Uranus from our backyard? Let's zip over to slide 7 here. And I got approval from Astronomy Magazine to show their August pages 40 and 41 here on Pass of the Planets. So if anyone really wants to copy these slides, we'll probably have to remove these, but just let me know. We'll coordinate with that. So what I'd like to do is start here in the bottom left-hand corner and figure out where the Earth is. We're looking down on top of the Earth rotates counterclockwise. So as soon as we start getting towards dusk, we can just pick up Jupiter. And then I come up to this next bubble here of the outer planets. Jupiter's pretty much lined up with Saturn, and Pluto's not too far away as we draw a straight line from us outward. And we come up to the top part here. We can just pick out Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn, which we'll see easily before midnight. So if we come back down to that second, the outer planets, and we see Uranus, Uranus is going to be a little bit closer towards sunrise. And it's not going to be too far away from Mars, as you see me skirting Mars, coming back up to that other orbs there. And we can see Uranus up here. And it's going to be very clear for us, especially folks with 20/20 eyesight, and of course, far from light pollution. Oh yeah, throw in calm skies. We, humans, can see down to 6.5 magnitude. For this month, Uranus is 5.8. So we can see it. Barely, of course, if you know where to look. So I recommend binoculars or a small 60mm telescope or larger to view. So let's take a look here at slide 8. You gotta love this. This is what you're gonna see, a really pale dot. So Uranus rises just after midnight local time on the 1st, and will be up in the eastern sky August 31st at the same time. Aquamarine orb can be spotted with binoculars quite easily, again shining at magnitude 5.8, with the good news is no other bright stars nearby. But I want to focus on August 31st because Uranus is going to stand 14 degrees northeast of Mars. Mars will be bright red, so it'll be a dead giveaway, and lies roughly midway between Hamel, the brightest star in Aries, and Menkar, the brightest star in Cetus. So don't know about y'all, I don't know where any of those bright stars are. So I did a little bit of researching online, but first I wanted to show you just how much bigger and light blue Uranus is compared to the Earth. So Uranus diameter is about 4 times that as Earth. Earth is almost 4,000 miles. Uranus is just shy of 16,000 miles in radius. Uranus tops in 14.5 times more massive as our rocky home, but the key here is Uranus is only 1.27 grams per cubic centimeter. What does that mean? Well, at 1 gram per cubic centimeter, that's our definition of water. So Uranus is the second least dense planet out there, and it's really not known as a gas giant nor Neptune. It's known really as an icy planet or icy large planet, because the compositions of Uranus and Neptune differ both than the heavier gas giants Jupiter and Saturn. So we'll just call Uranus our ice giant for tonight, and more on the atmosphere topic here in a little bit. So let's get back going to how best to spot Uranus in the night sky here on slide number 10. So I went online and Sky Telescope, they got a great app here. I just threw in the base for lat long, that way no one can really find out where I live. And you can click the options here towards the bottom left of your screen for constellation, names, lines, and viewing planet names. Problem is, on the right side of the screen, that's the best you're gonna get. There's Mars because it's bright, awesome. There is Aries in the top part of the green box, in the bottom left-hand corner, parts of Cetus, but we need to zoom in a little bit more. So let's go to the next slide. And here we are using naked eye planets, and awesome how they just draw a line across constellations on the positions of Uranus, unfortunately, towards fall of each year. So end of August, we're going to be right here, right where I start saying where Uranus is tonight. We can see there's Hamel and Eris just north of that, and a little bit to the left will be Menkar of Cetus. So let's take a look at the next slide if we can find it a little bit better. In this case, I'm using earthsky.org in cahoots with Sky and Telescope, and here they make a very nice line. Boom, there's Uranus just above magnitude 6, really nondescript, and they're right. There's no other bright stars nearby. There's Hamel and Menkar as seen. So that's what I do when I want to go outside and try to find these distant planets. All right, so let's start getting into some of the fun things. Why is Uranus so important? Why should we go back there and explore it? Why is it just another blue orb that's far away and who cares? Well, sure, Uranus is cold, distant, and truly a pale, bland ball. I say it's a critical planet to go back and explore in more detail because it's a world, again, knocked on its side, as we see here, looking at tilt. We can see familiar home here at Earth, we're tilted about 23 degrees and change. But if you look at Uranus, its axis is going right through from left to right almost. It's tilted almost 98 degrees over on its right side. And that really creates some interesting weather phenomena as well as seasons there. So what could have pushed or caused Uranus to become, well, a pushover in life? Well, there's theories abound. One, an orb about the size of the Earth struck the exotic globe sometime early in the planet formations. Or two, maybe Neptune decided to go rogue. Maybe Neptune was closer to Saturn and got pushed further away from Saturn and cross orbit Uranus and caused it to roll on its side. Bottom line is, we really don't know. So that's one reason why I want to go back there, is try to pick up clues. Why are planets rotating on their side? Better yet, on the next slide there, let's talk about rings and smashing inner moons. Uranus has the second most complex ring system in the solar system. Unfortunately, most of the rings are dark. So in this Hubble infrared view from 1997, we are looking at caption 1 and then caption 2 90 minutes later. And we can see some of the named smaller moons closer towards the rings there. And to me, we can not see, but supposedly there's 13 distinct rings. Unlike the rings of Saturn, which are very bright and composed of water ice, the rings of Uranus are really dark, almost the color of coal. Instead of containing dust, the rings seem to be made up of larger chunks measuring from 1/2 foot all the way up to 60 feet. So really, the rings would qualify as boulders and not dust like Saturn. And they're also very thin, being only a few kilometers or a couple miles thick. Scientists think the rings of Uranus are really young, no more than 600 million years old. They probably came from a few shepherd moons that were shattered by Uranus gravity, turned to rings around the planet as we see today. The chunks collided with each other and turned into smaller and smaller pieces. Well, hold on. Some of the inner moons shown here do not have stable orbits. And more moon smashing is predicted in the next several million years, according to astronomers, using complex modeling. More on this in a bit, because there's still more ring info to encircle. Sorry about the pun there. The rings of Uranus are extremely faint and visible light, but quite prominent in the near infrared. The brightest ring, the Epsilon ring, as we can see here, has variable width about its circumference. Its widest and thus brightest part is at the top of the image. So there's thicknesses also to the rings. You don't quite see that in Saturn, where the rings are pretty smoothed out. Here they tend to bunch up a little bit at Uranus. Also in the right image, 8 of the 10 Uranian moons are shown here. Their sizes vary from 25 miles for Bianca, the smaller one, all the way to the larger one for Puck near the top right. However, several of these smallest satellites were not discovered by Voyager 2 back in '86, just not enough time. And also, Voyager 2 started developing camera issues. They would have to rotate the whole spacecraft and then sometimes move the whole camera platform. That platform started to jam, so the only option they could do was rotate the spacecraft, and we got a few pictures from Uranus system. But I also want to highlight how Uranus and its rings rotate about the sun, as we see in slide 16 here. It takes Uranus 84 years to orbit just once. This is where the tilt comes back into play. If you show up at Uranus at the wrong time in a 42-year period, that hemisphere could be completely in dark. That means the moons, which also circle near Uranus equator and ring system projected outward, you won't see half of the moons. They'll be dark. So Uranus South Pole, as of 2020, or just to the right of the 2007 image at the bottom right of the slide, is now in shadow for the next 30 plus years. Bummer, you ain't gonna get any pictures of the South Pole. Those are two visited Uranus at the same spot as 2070 on the far left of your screen there, as the same period was 1986. Only the southern portions of the moons were visible then. So if a Uranian orbital mission is designed and launched within the next 8 years, it's going to require approximately 10 years to get out to Uranus. That arrival is going to be around 2038, or the image between 2028 and 2049 near the top right of your screen. Some of the northern hemisphere imagery may be lost in the unlit areas, so we need to focus on mission soonest. Otherwise, we're not going to see this undiscovered land. This is the most undiscovered territory remaining in the solar system. And if we wait too long, we'll have to wait 70 years before we see all parts of the northern hemisphere. So what's another reason why to rush to explore Uranus? Well, let's talk a little bit about some crazy moons mixing things up. So here's a nice image zooming in on the rings and some of the smaller shepherd moons as little dots there. I want to start outside the rings with Miranda. Miranda is approximately 300 miles in diameter. Puck is about 100 miles, and Cupid, the smallest here, about in the center of the screen, is only about 11 miles in diameter. Closer in, the moons of Cordelia and Ophelia act as shepherd moons to the epsilon ring, or that squiggly looking E character towards the top of the screen. All these inner moons whip around the planet in less than a day, and computer simulations reveal that they're in danger of perturbing each other, intersecting orbits that might result in mutual collisions. Not just one or two, but all those from Juliet through Ophelia could zip into each other. Boy, wouldn't Shakespeare be angry that some of his beloved characters may not have a place to hang out anymore at Uranus if that happens. And this is something else we've not seen within the solar system. These 8 tiny moons are so packed in such a tiny space that we don't know how they managed to avoid hitting each other to date. So that's pretty interesting. And then we have MAB, which was only discovered in 2003 by the Hubble Space Telescope. MAB, as you can see towards the bottom of our screen, is smack dab in the middle of the mu ring, or that U with a little hook on the left side. And we don't know why there's a lot of debris around MAB. Maybe that moon was struck by small meteorites or ring particles, but because of its small size and dark color, it was overlooked by Voyager 2 back in '86, and MAB is only about 15 miles in diameter. It is totally small, yet mysterious. And that takes us to the next slide here. On the top, you'll recognize Saturn, and you'll notice Saturn has technically a blue ring or a lot of water ice, and that's produced by Enceladus, which is about 200 miles in diameter and has those tiger stripes at the South Pole, and it's spurting off all kinds of geysers of mostly ice water. So we look at Uranus in infrared, and we see the same thing with MAB. And of course, wait a minute, MAB, 15 miles wide. It's got to be a dead, tiny little ignore piece of chunk. Okay, maybe it's ice, but maybe tidal heating is causing MAB to slowly outgas or have its own geysers. We won't know if we don't go and stay a little bit longer to see what's going on there. So what else are the strange moons of Uranus up to? Well, let's zip over to slide 19. We're going to talk about these dark major moons, the 5 moons that you see in the screen here. And we're going to jump into them a little bit more on slide 20 here. The 5 major satellites shown here with Puck in the bottom right-hand corner, not considered a major moon. It's only 100 miles in diameter. All 5 major satellites would be classified as dwarf planets if they're found orbiting the sun by themselves. Because they're in orbit about the sun, they have sufficient mass to make themselves round, and they've pretty much cleared out the neighborhood around their orbits. Pretty cool. But nope, they're all hanging around Uranus, so they're moons. And the largest is Titania here, almost 1,000 miles in diameter. It's also the 8th largest moon in the solar system. Titania has fault lines running across its surface, hinting at past or present seismic activity, perhaps tidal heating, or when watery surfaces have frozen and maybe expanded and cracked the whole surface there. And then Umbriel is about 730 miles in diameter. It's the darkest of Uranus' big moons. And Voyager 2's quick flyby, scientists were unable to figure out how that surface got so dark, or why there's a bright ring on Umbriel's surface that is 90 miles in diameter. Again, don't know until we go and hang out for a bit. There is some research that thinks that Oberon and Titania may have some subsurface oceans. So that'll be something really interesting. And in fact, based on Kepler and tests discovering all these exoplanets, the majority of the sizes that we're finding are about the Uranus-Neptune size. I'm kind of curious if those exoplanets have moons that could have subsurface oceans, or maybe surface oceans, because exoplanets could provide a magnetic field and go around all these dwarf stars that we're discovering have planets, protecting life on possible moons. And again, these large planets could be providing tidal heating for these moons as other moons jostle and try to get in resonance, just like someone swinging on a swing, as you kick your feet out forward, you start picking up altitude, and you tuck your feet under as you come backwards. And again, you start picking up altitude. That's the same thing that these moons are doing to each other. They're kind of compressing each other. That's keeping their interiors warm, even billions of years after their formation. All right, Ariel is about 700 miles diameter. It's the youngest and brightest known surface among the moons. Again, we don't know why. Could it be meteorite hits, possible geological activity? Some of its features include grabens or valleys surrounded by faults. And all these moons, they're about 50% dirt or rock and 50% water. And then we got Miranda. Miranda is really one of those odd features. It's a jumble of disconnected pieces. If we look right here, that kind of looks like a chevron there. It's just like someone did the little Adidas or Nike symbol and then slapped it on the moon as an afterthought. And if we look towards the top left there, we can see all these huge valleys and cliffs. In fact, some cliffs are 12 miles high. I think that would be pretty cool to stand at the edge of a cliff and then to jump. That's okay. I'd have a spacesuit on and some kind of retro rocket so I wouldn't go splat at the end. It would take a total of 15 minutes in Miranda's gravity to actually fall down that 12-mile cliff. That would be pretty cool. So how do these Uranian moons compare in size and features to other moons? Let's head over to slide 21. And we can see Jupiter's got some really big moons. Then we've got one near us. Titan's about the largest moon there, and Saturn, and the rest of the moons of Saturn are pretty much on level with Uranus. So we can kind of see, other than Uranus moons being a little bit darker than Uranus, they're not oddballs at all. And again, they represent the most undiscovered land or topography left in the whole solar system in one system. So let's look at some more cool, picturesque hues. Here's a picture, conceptual art, from Ariel looking out at Uranus. And in the next one here, here's those cliffs I mentioned before at Miranda. Pretty cool, 15 minutes from top to bottom. So what else is fascinating the seventh planet from the sun? Well, let's talk about the atmosphere a little bit, the other pale blue dot. Another page I got permission from Astronomy Magazine was just pulled out this month for September. And we can see Uranus and Neptune are alike, that their compositions of hydrogen and helium is different compared to Saturn and Jupiter. And Uranus has the most methane of all the planets, and that's what gives us that hazy, pale blue color. The blue-green color results from the absorption of red light by methane gas in Uranus's deep, cold, and remarkable clear atmosphere. And Uranus has the coldest atmosphere around. We don't know why. For some reason, Neptune's emitting more thermal energy than Uranus. And the funny thing is Uranus, if you look at the North Pole, the equator, South Pole, temperature is pretty much the same. So there's some structure that's evening out all that heat without Uranus. All right, let's head over. We've seen this slide before, but there's all kinds of good information here. And these images, the blue exposure shows the deepest atmospheric levels. A blue color indicates clear atmospheric conditions prevalent at mid-latitudes near the center of the disk. That little X that represents the South Pole and caption number 2 there. And we can see all the winds are wrapping around or parallel to the equator. And again, we don't know how all the temperature is perfectly spread out. So again, if one pole is in the dark for 42 years, it's going to be the same temperature as the other pole. That's pretty interesting. And of course, using infrared capability, we can see we've got storms there on one hemisphere, whereas the other hemisphere always seems to be covered in some kind of haze. Pretty interesting. So these clouds at the far right of caption 2, they're about the size of Europe and North America. So that's how big those clouds or storms really are. Okay, we're going to wrap things up here real shortly. The last topic I want to cover magnetic field all in its own. Looking at Earth here in the top right, pretty much our magnetic field is lined up with our axis rotation, as well as the center of our magnetic field is near the center of the Earth. We think there's a molten iron core there and it's rotating. However, if we look out to the gas planets of Jupiter and Saturn, and finally the icy planets of Uranus and Neptune are just, well, odd. First off, Uranus will rotate about its axis, but then its magnetic field is going about 60 degrees the opposite direction. Pretty odd. So which planet owns the third largest magnetic field or magnetic sphere at the equator? Well, it's Uranus. However, no planetary medals or bronze for Uranus, unless we try to comprehend both how Uranus and Neptune's magnetic axis is so offset and so, well, irregular compared to the rest of the planets. So I know I'm running out of time, so we're going to wrap things up here. It's not clear how or where the ice planets form, why their magnetic fields are so strangely oriented, or what drives geological activity on their moons and shape their rings today. These mysteries make exploration of Uranus and Neptune, but it takes a longer time to get to Neptune, scientifically important, and this importance is enhanced by the discovery of many exoplanets that are being found similar in size to Uranus and Neptune today. Questions?
If you're trying to ask a question, remember you can have to unmute. And I hope somebody heard me say that.
Not a question, but nice job, Doug. It was great. Uranus, Neptune, they don't get enough attention.
No love.
No love, and we need to share some love.
Do you like Uranus more than Neptune?
I think Neptune is just as interesting. The bad news is it's another 3 or 4 years down the road to get there. There's been several studies. If anyone's familiar with the decade survey, every 10 years, the astronomy community gets together. Uranus has been the top one, but that 10-year report's closing out here in 2022. So it's going to cost a pretty penny to get out there and to break and actually become a small satellite of Uranus. I think that's why NASA hasn't pushed that with all the return back to the moon and so on and so forth. But I think collectively, if enough folks write into NASA as well as their representatives and senators, who knows? Maybe it'll finally get the attention it deserves.
Do you think that honestly it doesn't get quite as much attention because it sounds funny?
Absolutely. I mean, come on. When you got a name like Uranus or Uranus, and there's no one correct way of saying it, yeah, it's going to be kind of the giggle factor.
So you're saying it's kids' most exciting planet?
Absolutely.
I guess if I was a congressman trying to get $1 billion spent on NASA to go out to Uranus, that would be tough because I'd end up saying it a lot and it would be in the news for the wrong reasons.
That is true. Maybe we all need to push for a different name for the planet.
I have a question.
Go.
What chemical is thought to be responsible for the green coloration? What chemical impurity? Because I don't think it would be hydrogen, helium, or methane. What would be?
I thought it was
responsible for that?
methane.
Methane gives us the primary color of the bluish hue, but methane absorbs red light. Let's see here. Ammonia also will still make it kind of a rusty brownish color as well, but it's primarily methane. As you can see, less than 0.1% are all other gases. Good question.
Wasn't William Herschel the one who discovered Uranus?
There's a little bit of debate out there on that. I don't know off the top of my head what the correct answer is. I would have to get on Google to research a little bit further.
According to Wikipedia, it has a picture of William Herschel. Said he observed it on the 13th of March, but that's 1781. The earliest definite sighting was 1690 when John Flamsteed observed it at least 16 times, cataloging it as 34 Tauri. French astronomer Pierre Charles Lemonnier observed Uranus at least 12 times between 1750 and 1769. Sir William Herschel observed it on the 13th of March, 1781, from the garden of his house. So, But according to Wikipedia, it also says that the earliest known observation was Hipparchus, who in 128 BC might have recorded it as a star for his star catalog that was later incorporated into Ptolemy's Almagest.
But Herschel's given credit.
Looks like it.
Yeah, Herschel's given credit because he followed it and identified it as a planet. But I think if you also look into Galileo, I think he logged Uranus in one of his drawings, though never identified it or never went back to it. He drew it as a star, but
he initially.
My understanding is a bunch of people saw Uranus, but then also Herschel thought it was a comet initially, so it took him a while.
But he did engage in a series of observations that had parallax for fixed stars, so that might have been helping it. Were there any more questions for Doug?
I have a question for Doug. You mentioned a couple, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, go.
Okay. You mentioned a couple of times that the rings are very dark. Would it be safe to assume that it's just, they're basically made out of rock? Some kind of dark rock? Do they know what they're made out of?
We don't know 100% certain. The 5 major moons, based on a density analysis, are half water ice, half rock. That those smaller inner moons, we really didn't get it close up with Voyager 2. So I don't know for a fact.
thank you very much, Doug. That was a great talk.
That was awesome.
Excellent.
Hooray. Claps for Doug.
Thank you.
Hey, one last question. Is there any theories about why the tilt of Uranus is so different from the other planets? Because we know that the core is a little bit cooler. Does that relate to the tilt? I mean, it's what, one of the coldest planets in the solar system, right? Like what's prevailing thought about that?
There's 2 big theories with Uranus tilt. For the longest time, astronomers thought an Earth-sized protoplanet ran into Uranus. However, the problem is, wouldn't have that protoplanet also stripped away all these moons from Uranus, giving them an escape route? Boom. So that has some holes in that theory. The other theory is the Nice model. I don't know if you've all heard about that before, where we think Neptune was closer to Saturn and Uranus was the most distant planet. Jupiter and Saturn fell in a renaissance where they got really close to each other, and Jupiter would go around the sun maybe twice, as Saturn would go once. And what that would cause is their orbital energy to build up, just like a swinger kicking their feet out as they go forward, and the feet swing underneath the swing. And that actually gave a bump or pushed Neptune away from the sun, crossing Uranus's orbit, so it was more or less a near hit between those 2 planets. We look at Neptune, and it doesn't really have any of its own moons left. We think Triton is probably a Kuiper belt object, very similar to Pluto, that got close to Neptune as Neptune was going out beyond Uranus, and then got captured around Neptune. So back to Uranus, it seems to be a very calm interior. However, that magnetic field doesn't agree with that theory. In fact, some of that methane actually breaks up into just carbon, and underneath the huge pressures closer to its core, it could actually start raining diamonds. So we got all these wild theories, but it conflicts with other concepts or observations today. So bottom line, we don't know for a fact.
Doug, here's something that you can add to the shtick of your presentation. With all the uncertainty connected with Uranus, it really makes you wonder whether or not Miranda has been read its rights.
That's a good one. Where did you get that one from, Steve? Oh my gosh.
I need to have a drum set in here.
Hey, I do have a question for everybody, if they'd be willing to answer. I'm just kind of curious because when we have star parties, we look at the Saturn, we look at Jupiter. How about Uranus? How many people have seen Uranus through their own?
I've seen it.
I've
I have.
Give a thumbs up
I haven't.
I've seen it.
if you've seen Uranus. A thumbs up.
You know, Steve, I have seen Stafford find it on a number of occasions. He does that really well.
Yeah, I've
Yes.
looked at Uranus through Stafford scope several times, and I can back in the 70s. Yes, it was the late 70s, early 80s. When I was up in the Black Hills, I saw all of the naked eye planets, all up in one night from dusk till dawn. Uranus was the last one that I got in the early morning, but it was rough, but I managed to pull it in. Naked eye.
Yes.
This is kind of a nice commentary on the ability of go-to systems. I've seen Uranus often, and interestingly enough, the last few times I looked at it was through the light pollution haze of Omaha. If you have good control and you know where to look, it's right there.
So can you see any of those moons through a telescope? They're too small.
Too dark as well.
Yeah, they're too small for me to see.
I can't say that I've seen any of the moon.
I have seen the moons of Uranus on a really, really good night up in Valentine with a big scope. Well, I should say the two largest I've seen with my light. The other ones I think, are even beyond mine.
And I would second that motion also with Stafford, that I think I've seen that even out at Doug Geip's farm. Sometimes I thought I've seen Oberon and Titania.
Thanks, Doug. It was very informative. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Doug, can you unshare your screen for me?
You got it back, John?
Not yet.
Nope.
Yeah, hover up at the top and it should like come down and then there'll be like a button to say stop share.
I don't know if I did that correctly.
Oh, wait a minute. I can do it myself. Haha.
There you go.
Hey, there you go. All right. I didn't know I had that power as the host. Mm-hmm.
You have the power.
Awesome. So do we want to take another break real quick? And then we'll start the business meeting. What do you say? Get back here at 5 after 9? 9:05?
Sure.
Hey.
Okay. We can chat amongst ourselves.
For me,
Hmm?
7:05 for me.
Oh, yes, of course. Now, you don't have daylight savings time at all, do you?
No, Arizona does not.
Hmm. Are you having your groceries delivered?
No, we go into town with our masks on. We keep our masks everywhere, and we don't go out very much.
Hmm.
Now, Arizona has gotten the headlines for being red states and really dangerous, and Navajo County especially. That's the county we are in, but the county is very long north and south, and the whole north half is part of an Indian reservation, and that's where most of the cases have been. Very few cases around Pinedale where we are, and then the nearest town about 15, 20 minutes away is Show Low. So we have very few cases here compared to Show Low, and Show Low has even very fewer cases compared to something like Phoenix. Phoenix is the really big hot spot, but we're pretty safe from it here, but we do obey the masks and all that stuff.
I'll be back.
No. Go.
Well, this is a good time to speak, isn't it? This is a great time to speak. Everybody's gone.
Yeah, let's see what you got to say.
I'd like to mention that I own about 25 telescopes or maybe more. They range from 2 inches up to 14 inches, and they're all for sale. And I also have telescope parts. I may have a mirror cell. I know I have a 10-inch. You know, you could take a 10-inch mirror cell and shim it up. It would not be difficult to put a 9 or 9 1/4 inch mirror in a 10-inch cell. I have a 10-inch f4.8 mirror in a 10-inch cell. 20th of a wave on the wave front, been tested, and it's a factory mirror. C14 all the way down to 2-inch refractors. 70 millimeter refractor, 90 millimeter refractor. A couple of them are driven with electric motors. Some of them are manually driven. You just sit there and turn the little rod and follow the star, equatorial, you name it. I have got a lot of telescopes of all sizes. None of them are go-to, none of them are digital. How about a 6-inch f15 refractor made by Jaggers? That's an optical tube assembly, a whole tube assembly. It would go really well on a homemade wooden tripod. I've seen those at several star parties. They're really an attention getter. The tube is a little over 7 feet long. It's got a 2.5-inch focuser on it, and it's well baffled. I even sharpened the baffles are made out of aluminum. I even sharpened the edge of the baffles when I made it, and then I lined them with a push device so they were nice and square in the tube. There's no internal reflections, period, whatsoever. Yeah, 6-inch f15 refractor by Jaggers.
Sounds like a good time to have like a little Sunday night barbecue. 20 telescopes. Come on. Yeah. How about inviting some people over?
20? That's an underestimate. I'm looking at the small dining table right now, and there's 6 of them laying on top of the small dining table.
Look, I wish you were my neighbor. I'd be over there.
I don't have any neighbors. I live in a cornfield. The only problem with that is that they spray the cornfield with chemicals all the time, and I have to close my house up. But yeah, I just wanted to say that I've got enough parts probably to make 2 or 3 RV6s. I have an RV6 that's totally assembled and working. And then I've got mirrors and cells and tubes and tripods and drive systems and everything else for RV6s. I collected RV6s for a while and played with them and had a lot of fun. I think they're a great American telescope, and they ruled the roost back in about 1955 to about 1965. If you had an RV6, you had some. RV6s have got something going for them. Every mirror I've ever seen in an RV6 was absolutely diffraction limited. They're all great. I've never seen a bad mirror in an RV6. In fact, in the 50s, all those little 6-inch f8s that they were making, Meade made them and Criterion made them. I don't know who all made. All of those mirrors were fantastic. There were none of them that had any problems. So yes, if you want parts or telescopes, give me a jingle. I probably have what you need.
Best Buy. WikiBuy save you money. It's a browser extension that automatically applies coupon code.
My RV6 mirror is very nice also. Really like it.
And I'll step right off into the gutter and make one more comment about the talk that we just heard. Nobody mentioned the fact that methane is a dominant gas found around Uranus. And that's the end of that. No comments. Quit laughing, Mark.
That will always be true.
Why is Uranus green or blue? Because it is covered with methane. And it hasn't even eaten any corn. How could it have happened? Oh, by the way, I haven't figured out how to get my name up here yet. You know, my name, right? See, where is it? Over there?
It's iPad. That's all.
iPad. That's not my
It's okay,
name.
iPad 10.
Thanks, iPad 10. Yeah.
On another Zoom group that I meet with, up in the top right corner of the screen, there was a thing there, and you say put the name in, and you hit it, and then you go type, and you put your name in there. I have no name, nameless.
There's a place in
Motherless
Zoom
child.
preferences that you can add your name. Change
Well, there's a thing up there that says more, and that says chat, meeting settings, minimize meeting, virtual background, disconnect audio. So it's not that. Participants, that's a list of everyone else except me. Oh, it says iPad 10, me. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe I punch on that. And it says, oh, rename. Hey, well, we found it together. We ventured off into the unknown and found it.
That'll be $20.
How about that? Now, if I get rid of the other one, if I remember how to spell my name, how
Do you
good.
want me to rename it for you? Oh, no, you got it. There you go.
There.
Ooh, I didn't know you were
Excellent.
George. I thought you were iPad 10.
There. Okay. So we got that. Okay. Good. Is there a delay here? Yes. I could clap on the first and third beat, and it comes out on the second and fourth.
George, when I see all your fingers, it makes me think you really are a digital sort of guy.
A digital guy. I'm a digital guy.
That's punny.
Oh, no. That's no way to. Okay, it's 5 after 9.
Yep.
Time to stop all of this foolishness and get back to business.
Yes. I'm glad we're recording.
It's time for foolishness. Come on.
Doug, I sent you a private message.
Sorry.
Good time to scratch my nose.
Pushed 120 buttons over here. So, Steve, I'll get to it in 1 second. I just wanted to let everyone know we had a great dinner in my house tonight with my family. Wife cooked up some good steaks. We had mashed potatoes, peas, carrots. All was good until I went to reach for the peas and accidentally spilled a few on the table. And my son looked at me and goes, "Dad, you just peed on the table."
No use crying over split peas.
What meeting?
Are we all back?
We are. Continue.
Okay, all right. So, on to the business meeting. Just a reminder for our secretary's report. To file a motion, please unmute and state your name. And afterwards, if you have any corrections or additions, and then we'll have our motion. Diana.
Okay, Secretary's report. The July OAS meeting was held on July 3rd, 2020. Virtual meeting by Zoom, 30 members. We had 1 guest, 12 people used AstroPark. John Larson gave us the usual rundown on all the benefits of being a member. There's a new AstroPark user survey that's currently up on the Discord server and is also out in the Stella. John encourages everybody to fill it out so that we can figure out how to make AstroPark more user-friendly. Important upcoming dates, there basically weren't any because 2020 NSP got canceled. Awards, there were no awards given. Observing, Sonali gave us a brief presentation on July observing events to look forward to, primarily the reappearance of Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars. There was a meteor shower, the Southern Delta Aquariids to look forward to, and Comet C/2020 F3, closest approach to the sun on July 3rd, and a penumbral lunar eclipse on July 4th. Outreach, we didn't really have any outreach events because of COVID, and astronomy at the park was still canceled. Telescope loan program, Stafford reported the 8-inch black Dob had been checked back in, now available. The 80mm refractor had been outfitted with the new pair of slow motion cables. Tool time, Nina Baker showed us an astronomy themed soft doll with changeable heads that showed different phases of the moon, and came with a companion, a smiley star doll, very cute. And then John told us about the video camera he's trying to mount on his telescope in order to project images from the scope onto a monitor. Program chair, we did not have a program chair report because Lee was out working at Lake McConaughey and was unable to log in for the meeting. Program, John Larson gave us a program on how to sign up for the OAS Discord server with some discussion of how Discord functions. The URL for the server can be found in Stella. Business meeting, I gave the minutes for the June meeting. No corrections were noted. Motion was made to accept the minutes and seconded by Cletus Baker. The motion was passed. Treasury report, Michael Gallagher gave us the June numbers. Income was $274.94. Expenditures for June was $860. Total expenditures balance at the end of June was $11,356.53. Vice President, we did not have a Vice President report because Rodney was not able to make the meeting. The question was asked what the metal post was that we see in the AstroPark photos, and George Allen confirmed that it's a mount for an SCT wedge, an old Celestron or Meade SCT wedge, with the screws being used to put the wedge on the top of the post. And those screws do need to be removed and greased. The park had been mowed, but the weeds along the side of the entrance road were getting big, so it was agreed that we needed a work day to cut the weeds down. Old business, Astro Park survey, there were 18 responses at the time of the June meeting. We'll probably close the survey in December. The link is in Stella, so members who don't currently use the Discord server can still respond. New business, Steve Skinner proposed we set up a regular ground school along the lines of what we do at Nebraska Star Party, which could be held in order to help members in the day, to help members become comfortable with using and adjusting their telescopes. It was also agreed that making and posting some videos on general telescope use and putting them up on the OAS website, as well as providing some links to good YouTube videos, would be helpful to members as well as to the general public. We agreed we'd talk details on how to do that best in the future, either through Discord chats or Zoom meetings. The online magazine Astronomy Technology Today is starting a pilot program to provide Astronomy Club members with a discounted subscription. It would cost the club $75 a year to participate. In return, we get a club login code that the members, current members, would be able to enter to log in and read the magazine. It was agreed that we ought to go ahead and sign up for the discounted Astronomy Technology Today membership. Workday at Astro Park. Bill Bond proposed that we schedule a work day for Saturday, July 11th, with Saturday, August 1st as a backup in order to address the weed issue. Work needs to be done on the steps as well, but it was agreed that would be better put off until later in the year when the weather cools down. Because of the need to maintain social distancing, members would have to bring their own lunch. We're not going to have a cookout. Club insurance. Mike Gallagher mentioned we've received a letter that our insurance provider will no longer going to provide any coverage when the club's policy comes up for renewal. So we're going to need a new insurer. It was suggested that Mike contact Eric Balcom for advice, as NSP has to have the same insurance policy. And then a motion to close was made by Brandy Rice and seconded by Sonali. Motion was passed. And then the next meeting was scheduled to be held at 7:30 p.m. tonight. And that's all.
Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Do we have the motion to accept the minutes as read?
Fleet Baker, so moved.
Rodney Bottorff, seconded.
Sorry, Rodney? Is that the second?
That was the second.
The motion has been made and seconded to accept the minutes as read. All those in favor say aye.
I've unmuted everybody.
Aye.
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 Thank you, Krista. All those opposed say nay. You didn't
I'm
mute
muting everybody.
The topic of
Okay, treasurer's report.
So for the month of July, we had an income of $374.89, all of which came from dues. So that's roughly $25 a person times 4 times 3, 12, 14, 15 people. And no expenditures in the month. The balance at the end was $11,756.42. I did contact Eric about the insurance and haven't heard back from him yet. Talked to Stuart Parker, the editor of Astronomy Technology Today, and so he's given us all the information to go ahead and have everybody subscribe to Astronomy Technology Today who would like to for a year, and after that we can continue doing it if we want to, which we'll see. Depends on what people think. I personally like it. I've been a subscriber since they started. And I would just comment that John and Stafford and I were down at the park, and we did a lot of cutting of weeds. And I retapped those holes in that pier and made new stainless steel screws for it. So that looks different now. It's all painted and the rust is gone and it's got stainless steel. Oh, there it is. Okay. That's better now. So that's usable. I'd like to fix the other one. If we had permission to buy some material, I could turn it on a lathe and make it fit and make the other pier usable too. Anyway, and I'd like to make another, there was a table there. I'd make another table pretty easily with some plastic lumber. I couldn't do better myself with these pictures. Anyway.
It's like it was planned. I tell you, it was not planned.
No. I think I would put a table back there again though. You know, it would be not much of a trick to do it. And so I'd make that useful again as a table. Anyway, so that would be my report.
Now you said those bolts are stainless steel. Is that correct?
The screws are. The knobs are aluminum. I turned some aluminum knobs and put some stainless steel screws through it.
So they come apart. They come out as one piece then when you turn them.
When you turn them, they come out as one piece. Yeah, they're just a big screw going in. That's to hold your mount down onto the.
There was that flash up there again. Well, it's not now. There was a flash come out of the kitchen, like over there. Was it there?
Okay.
I have a question regarding the other pier. Isn't the other pier set up to support an RV6 equatorial head? George, is that how that's set up?
This is George Allen. Yes. At the time I put that pier in there, there was a number of 6 and 8 inch telescopes that sat on their own pier with legs on them. And what I did was I took a piece of pipe the same size and welded it onto a heavier pipe. And there's even holes for the set screws. And you could take your telescope equatorial head, set it on there, and it was automatically level. And I don't suppose anybody has any of those anymore. But at one time, Meade and a couple of other companies made 6 and 8 inch telescope equatorial heads that would fit directly on that post. So it's out of date. And if someone wanted to put something else on it, like a round tabletop, weld the round tabletop on it, or an adapter so you can put some other sort of telescope that was popular now, that is popular. But that's what it was, yes. It was made for a telescope of the times in the 80s.
So my RV6 equatorial head will fit right on there?
Very possibly. Just undo the set screws a little bit, set it right down on there, tighten the set screws, and you're in business.
Yep.
That might be so. Because I think that's a 4 inch inside diameter, outside, I forgot.
Yeah, it looks just like my RV6 pier.
Okay, then that might be what it fit, was the RV6 and some other ones like it.
George, do you think an older Edmunds 6 inch equatorial system would go on that?
Yes, that was the same design. You can try it and see, but yes, the Edmund equatorial head came out of the same mold, sort of as the RV6 and some other ones.
My thought was just to put a little table on top of it. It could come off easily enough if somebody wanted to, you just have screws on it to take it off. And
you could make you could make a wooden tabletop with a plug that you could set down inside that tube and use it for the night, as a table, and then take the table off.
Well, I was thinking the table would fit other telescope mounts. You could put other mounts on it.
That's possible also.
Yeah, the table would be for putting other mounts. It'd just be a little small table for other mounts that now have surface mounts. I need to know what people needed, then we can make an adapter for anybody's telescope.
Anyone that had a telescope, a small telescope, they want to use that post. If they make their own adapter, of course, then first come, first serve on the post. And I'm very glad someone painted it white so that you're less likely to run into it with your legs or a car. That's the right color. We had it yellow and black at one time in stripes like a barber pole.
I
make it highly visible.
I don't want to trip over it.
But white does just as well, you betcha. Also, around the 4th of July, You can drop M80s down into it.
I wouldn't do that, but that's a good strong post. That doesn't wiggle.
It won't hurt the post any, but there's water standing in there, and if you get a blast of water spray out of the top of it, you cherry bomb or an M80. Yeah,
Well,
we've
there's another
done
reason
that.
they're going to put a top on it, so I wouldn't get water down there anymore. Take the water out.
We should have done that, and we used to have a coffee can over the top of it. That's long been missing.
I didn't
But
think
we
it'd be
did
so
to keep
simple.
the water out, and then once that was gone, it filled up with water.
I should have been so simple. I could have put that over it.
There you go. In the meantime, pour about a pint of motor oil down it so the mosquitoes can't breathe in that water. If they are, I don't know.
That pier is just begging for a small table that people who have the Astronomers Without Borders little reflector could mount it
Bingo.
right on.
That's me.
Yeah,
I want
there's a
a
lot
little
of
table.
possibilities.
We could do that. That'd be perfect.
Lots of possibilities.
And the post is mounted in about 400 pounds of concrete, and it's
I
down
noticed
in
it
the
doesn't
ground
wiggle.
about 4 or 5 feet.
It don't wiggle.
It was never intended to be moved. The same goes for the one that the Celestron 8-inch mount is on. It's also, and so are those two posts that used to have a table on them. All of those things, I did all of that, and those are post holes with a lot of concrete, and then they were leveled up and braced and let the concrete set. Yeah. That was in the 1980s. In fact, I've got that stamped on those posts. If you look close enough, it's kind of rusted away, but I've got my the date and the initials, I think, on the concrete post. Is that concrete around the base? It's bare?
That's concrete.
I don't know if I put concrete out that far. Yeah, there's a number on the other
Well,
side.
I'll bet you did.
That could be. I know we put concrete underneath the wooden table, the concrete table, the big round concrete table. There's concrete underneath that. I thought we put our name into that too. We just stick our name on everything. We're just like Christopher Columbus.
Huh.
Oh, there you go. There was the old rusty version. Yeah, I stamped.
I need to update my slides.
Now that post, I filled that with concrete to keep the water out, by the way. We were having problems with water getting in there and mosquitoes going in and out. So we just filled it with concrete one day. And on top of that rusty thing, I do have my name and the date stamped on it with a stamping kit. And I made those 3 screws out of just screws, and I put a slot and welded a washer on top of it.
They're pretty rusted, so I threw those away.
Oh, what a shame.
I made better ones.
The Smithsonian probably wants them.
Yeah, those threads weren't very good, so I just made some new ones and retapped the holes.
I think you did proper.
Thank you.
And you can see at the bottom how big the concrete post is. And then I stopped it at that point. It had an aluminum tube around it, but that's been removed, I think.
Oh, it's still there.
Is it still there too?
There's still some around it, yeah.
Oh, concrete and aluminum, they are so forever. I wish somebody would take the vegetation out from behind the building that I built, which is the middle one in that photograph of the 3 buildings.
Oh,
Joyce and I built that building.
Well, I think it got cut down.
We're coming to that. We're coming to it.
And the vegetation is going to corrupt that wood. That is treated lumber, and that's treated back in the old days when it had arsenic in it and creosote. Not the new treated is not really any good.
It's confidence building.
The last time I was down there, it looked like a jungle in that structure where the roof rolls off. And I heard that the owner still has a telescope in that building, which is if in another year or two, if he doesn't update the structure, a telescope's going to be exposed to the elements.
Yes, that's correct.
Zidane, a fellow by the name of Mr. Zidane.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't sell the building to him. It went through 2 owners between he and I, and him and me, whichever. but anyhow, yeah, Hank Zidane owns that structure now, the best I know. And we have contact information for him.
Okay, thank you. Before we get to the vice president's report, Greg and Pam had their hand raised. Was that just from earlier? I don't.
They share a hand?
They had in the software, but
I private messaged them. It was a question about Uranus, and it looks like they jumped off now.
Oh, oops. Okay. Mr. Vice President, report. Better unmute Rodney. Wait a minute.
Can I say one more thing?
Rodney, you got to unmute.
Oh, that's right, because she muted me. She muted everybody, but all right. When I was out there, it must have been before you guys were, because I think the weeds were still kind of tall along the road. Yeah, I was telling you last night, I walked all the way down that road. They used to go to the quarry. I found that that cabin down there. I don't think it's not like a house. It looks like somebody's. It looks like a hunting cabin. There's a couple deer. There's a couple deer stands. A couple different places down there. I found the old quarry, but that's not our property though. But everything was all right there for at Astro Park. I think I did look in the lighthouse, and I believe I should probably call and have it serviced, because it looks like it had been used a few times. So I'll make sure I'll try and do that. I don't know if I can do that this weekend or not, but I'll definitely do it on Monday if I can't do it this weekend. I'm sorry I missed the work day last month. I had kind of a busy month, but otherwise I would have come out and helped.
Well, I'm sure there'll be another day coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I did see you guys must have we're talking about tying down the lighthouse so it didn't tip over. I see that was done too.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, there was some stakes in the ground and.
Oh,
and
yeah,
some,
those have been there
grass-
for a while. I realigned them a little bit ago and reshoved them in as much as you can in that quarry portion. Now, Rodney, didn't you say there were 2 abandoned vehicles in the old quarry?
Yes, there's like an old it's a diesel, but it looks like an old steam shovel with the great big scoop on the front of it. And then there's another bucket for that steam shovel sitting on a pile of rock back there. And then there's a great big bulldozer. I mean a big bulldozer. I mean the track came up to hit me in the middle of the chest. And so, I mean, those are, they're sitting out there and they're breaking down and they're probably leaking fluids everywhere. And I mean, I don't know if we need to be concerned about that or, I mean, it's not ours, but
nope.
It's just, I'm kind of environmentalist, so, you know.
Sure. Well, I'm sure that they abandoned it in place.
John?
Yes, sir.
John?
I can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry, I had no indication. The Walrock Quarry was last owned and quarried by Omaha Walrock, which I think is still in business. And those were the equipment, that was the equipment they were using to split and lift Walrock into their trucks. And yeah, it's been down there for decades, I think. And
it looked like it. It's pretty old.
Yes. And I can't remember the guy's name now, Omaha Walrock. The man died that owned it at that time, and his son used it after that, owned the corporation. I don't know where it goes. He lives in Omaha. And you could probably find it if you wanted to find it, if you were interested.
I
But
mean-
it's not our property.
No,
and
there's
it's
not.
really
There's
our
nothing we can
problem.
do about it.
No. Our property ends on that east-west road that goes along our observing site. Our property ends when the road turns and goes north.
Mm-hmm.
We own the woods up to that point. So once you make that north turn on that road, and then you make another turn to the west, and you go down into the Wall Rock Quarry. We used to go down there, and there's a lot of sedimentary rock fossils down there.
Yeah.
You can split those rocks, and you can find sedimentary fossils. I don't know if they care for that.
My brother's
But
a geologist.
They don't have it posted, and I don't think we're harming anything to do that. One year they had a nationwide motorcycle motocross track in that rock quarry. We had a lot of trouble with that. It was just for 1 year. And there were hundreds of motorcycles running around down there for about a month. That's no longer. Let's just hope it stays a dead quarry.
Yes.
And
We
nothing
won't
goes
mention
on.
it other than this recording.
That's right. Oh, John, Diana had a hairnet on and reminded me of something. Those hairnets, those surgical hairnets, are the ideal fabric to close over an open tube telescope. Your skin, or not using it outdoors. You can put that hairnet material over the top. It will let air go through, which is good, and it will stop dust and insects from going in, which is also good.
Mm-hmm.
And you can buy those hairnets anywhere. They're cheap and they are pretty substantial. I've used them for a long time for that. Thank you.
Sure. So for old business, we have quite a list. The improvement survey is still out there. That's going to go through December. There was discussion about the ground school last month. I don't believe there was any discussion by individuals between the months. Is that, I think, that correct, Steve? Nothing, no movement on it? Steve Skinner? I think Steve's muted.
Fell asleep at his monitor.
Well, the problem is when I'm presenting, I can't see things anymore. So.
How's that? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think that there was any movement. And the thing that, of course, has driven all this is just the COVID virus.
Sure.
But it's hard to know how to proceed. There are certainly some virtual ways that we could proceed, but you know, it just is so much better in person, and I don't know what to do about that.
I mean, like the discussion, I can host any video discussion meetings. That's not a problem. So that people could plan for a time that we are back together, develop essentially, like we say, we're going to develop the curriculum for what we're going to do for the ground school. You know, one of those.
I think this is Nina, and I
Hi,
think it's
Nina.
a great idea, and I think we should hold on to it and not worry about getting something done immediately. COVID is getting in the way of everything, but let's hold on to that idea, and as bits and pieces of it come together, we can be working on it. I love the idea.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Rodney. I agree with that.
Okay. I'm just going to keep it on old business as a placeholder to remind us as we go forward. I don't want to lose it in the cracks, you know.
Right.
The same with the videos on the OAS website. None have been produced as of yet. One of these days, hopefully. But the meeting videos will probably start to appear as well. The part of the change for getting the password attached to the Zoom meetings is we need to start to download the meetings out of Zoom. We can't store them in Zoom, so we're going to upload them into the Stella newsletter YouTube account so that we can post those videos and have them available. The nice thing about having them in there is if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you'll get notified when the new videos show up. So that's another advantage for any members that may use YouTube. As for the workday, the three of us were down there. I had to take a work call, and I was sitting in my car, and I was quiet for like 10 minutes. And this little deer just popped out right out of the bushes. Boosh. Looked at me for a second, looked around, then took off up the hill. But there is a bit of poison ivy around the facility. This was near the stairs. But around the entrance where the gate was, there was poison ivy. And Mike did spray those after trimming was done. But took the weed eater around all the pads and the buildings. We did go and take down the heavy stuff with some clippers behind the buildings, but it's not easy to get in there with what we had. So the real tall stuff that was like a 3/4 of an inch to an inch in diameter, we got cut down and moved out from behind the buildings. And the driveway section you can see along the side has been trimmed down. On either side, so if there's any issues. Oh yeah, they were doing parachute drops that day too. They jumped out above the area. And there's Mike. He's got the spray and he was inspecting the gate. As you can see, all that area was pretty well trimmed out. And several, how we say, volunteer trees and bushes were cut down. Is that correct, Mike?
I'd say the large number of the trees were cut down. I remember a lot of bushes.
Yeah. What kind? Do you remember what type of bushes those were? You told me when we were down there.
Mulberry.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Right now I think it's mostly mulberry.
But the fence line behind Astra Park, all those trees were cut down, so the fence line looks a lot cleaner than it used to be. Mike also did some measurements of the tree heights to see how high in degrees that they were. So that might help us inform our decisions later on, how things are regarding that. So
They weren't as high as I thought.
But we got a comment from somebody on Discord. They said it looked great. They were happy that things got cleaned up. So, yeah. And see,
There's
we
a
were
lot of
there.
poison ivy.
Yeah, we were there for 3 hours, like 9 to noon. Me, Stafford, and Mike, and we did what we could. Look for another. Sure, look for another work day in the fall, probably. Mike, you alluded to the club insurance previously.
Yes.
When your treasurer's report, so you kind of already covered that. Then for the astronomy technology today, we had the email go out later today so that people could sign up. And if you didn't get that, I am going to put it in the chat. So you need to use the keyword club to subscribe, and that's club all uppercase. So it's a great magazine. We got a nice introductory special So enjoy the magazine. That's all for old business. Let's see, new business. I want to remind folks that OAS officer elections are coming up in October. And I know that people were wondering if I was going to run again. I will run again. So don't have to worry.
Yay.
During the board meeting, earlier this year, we talked about selling or donating parts of the, should I say, awkward Celestron 8-inch. And we brought this up again at the board meeting recently. And Stafford, did you want to have any input on this item?
Yeah, this is it's one that's been sort of on the inventory, but it's a difficult system to use. Louis has a Meade Schmidt, which sounds like it's a little newer and probably a little bit simpler for somebody who's checking a scope out for the first time would probably find it. Plus, it sounds like it has a better tripod set on it as well. For now, it seems pretty intact, but it's also got some workarounds that have been done in the past on it, and it's got what I think is kind of a rickety tripod system. So if somebody out there is interested in a scope like this, perhaps we can announce to some new astronomy club newsletters or something that says, this is a real as-is basic old Celestron. Come and get it. No guarantees, as is. As for the there's an eyepiece set in a tow rod with this. In fact, it's a brand new tow rod because I bought one for the other one got a little chewed up somehow. We harvest that and the accessories for the Schmidt that Louis Dorland has and is willing to make available to the club. So that was my preliminary thought, and I thought I should bring it up to the group as an idea.
Yeah, it's not my scope. It was donated to the club by a realtor from Bellevue.
Well, it's in your possession. I guess it's the better way to put it.
Yes.
It's still, it sounds like it's probably a more usable overall setup than this old Celestron C8.
What kind of a price were you looking at?
I haven't thought too deeply on that. I've seen some comparable models at the early part of the summer for about 100 to 175. As for the general condition, and I would say anywhere from you come and get it to maybe $100.
Is the OTA, I mean, is it fine? The scope itself, there's no problems with like the mirror or anything?
Not that I can detect. The biggest fear that I have with this is when we initially got it and I took it out of its case, it had 4 screws missing. I put some in it. They seem to be holding so far, but it's just doesn't feel like it's really biting well on the where you put the screws in.
Mm.
So for now, it is a good OTA system, but if that gives out on somebody, it's not going to be fine because it'll be out of line. But if somebody's more talented than me, they might be able to.
I mean, I want to say I'd buy it for $100, but I'd have to come get it, and I'm on the other side of the state.
Stafford will deliver.
Stafford, do you drive out here to the Wyoming side of Nebraska a bunch?
Not really.
But he can make an exception.
Well, if I can get it by tomorrow morning, I can do it. I'm heading there tomorrow.
Where are you going to?
We're gonna hit a lot of different places. We're doing the passport Nebraska thing.
Oh, nice. Are you coming to Lake Mac?
I think that's on my checkoff list.
If you're coming to Lake Mac, I'm here. I will buy it for $100.
How big is it first? I gotta think. Will it fit in my SUV?
It should. It's 8 inches. I mean,
how long?
It's the
Oh, it's a
tripod, that's
Celestron CTX. It's short. How's the tripod?
It's a
The 10 inch is
1970s.
60 inches.
It's a fork mount.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hold on for a second.
You looking for a picture?
Yes, I'm bringing up the same thing that I showed you guys last night. The miracle of PowerPoint.
I also see a hand raised by DB Smith.
David,
Did we-
you have your hand
Did we
up.
get that answered?
No, but look, I wanted to ask for the Astro Park. Do you guys schedule who's going to be out there and when? Because look, I live in Omaha. I have a history of living in big cities, so I've never like bought my own telescope. But I'm totally interested in like tagging along if anybody's going out there, and I'll show up, and I promise not to be too annoying. But I would love to like just, like observe with some people if they're out at the Astro Park. So is there a calendar or a schedule of people that are planning on being out there? That was my question.
That's a good one. I know a lot of people agree with you there. I'm one of them. I haven't been out there yet. It's on my to-do list, but I don't want to go alone.
There's no planned items.
Yeah.
However, there have been people on Discord to say, I'm going down to Astro Park tonight. Or I was at Astro Park last night. So
the real clue is get on Discord and schedule with individual members.
Yeah.
that's probably
Normally,
the quickest. Yeah.
Okay. That's fair
in a
enough.
normal year, we do have star parties
Yeah.
out at Astro Park that are scheduled, but of course we had to cancel the formal star parties because of the COVID. But people are, you get on the Discord server and shoot out a message. I'd like to go to Astro Park this weekend. Anybody else want to go? And you'll get some people who'll take you up.
Yeah. All right. I just need to say, who's got a telescope? Can I tag along?
Yeah.
You could, when you're the member, you can even borrow one.
Yeah, look, I'm going to work up to that.
Okay.
I love that. I do love that. But yeah, okay. Answer
Do you
my
have binoculars?
just the two that are built into my forehead. So no, I don't.
All right. So Stafford, you have the picture. It's
Yes,
the one
I
on the
do.
right.
It's this rightmost picture here. It looks, if you're familiar with some of the, say 70s to maybe very, very early 90s, this is a pretty standard look.
Yep.
There's the newer ones have a far better tripod on them. This is the original release, and it was it's spindly and a bit quirky. But anyway, I'm going to see if I don't have any.
Yeah, if you want it shipped to Western Nebraska, I can do it. We leave tomorrow.
And if
I mean, as long as it's working, I would totally buy that for $100. Yeah.
And if Krista can't get it out to you, I'm thinking about going out to Western Nebraska in September or early October, and I could definitely take it out in my car.
Oh, nice.
So if
I
you wanted to
wanted
think about
to
it.
see the Panhandle, but yeah.
You should 100% come out here in September and October when there's not as many people. Just wait until after Labor Day. I hear it's way better.
That was my plan. I want to see agate fossil beds and some of the fossil sites and see Toadstool Geologic Park. And so stopping at McConaughey would be no problem.
So you are good with the understanding that this is the scope and the tripod in that case only.
Yeah, so are you saying that the fork is gone?
There was never a fork. Oh, this is the fork right here.
And it's still attached, or it's no longer attached?
You have to assemble it.
But it comes, okay, all right.
Yeah.
So there's not missing pieces. Not really.
No, not for putting these things together. I mean,
Okay.
the scope
Yep.
is intact. It's just
Perfect.
there are quirks.
That's okay. I like fixing up telescopes. I did quite a few before I moved out here, and I'm kind of missing it, so.
I think what Stafford is saying is that there's not any eyepieces with it or a finder scope.
That's fine. Oh, no, that's
Well,
fine.
that's what I want to make sure that you're aware of.
And
Just
before we
like
can go before we can go farther on this though too, it's club property. Something there would have to be a motion made for this to be sold.
I motion that
I
we sell
move.
this telescope.
I second.
I third.
How do we do that? 3 people.
You have
Todd,
a motion
help us
on the
out.
you have a motion on the floor. All you have to do
Yeah.
is just ask for the question. Call the question.
Well, I'm saying that the motion from the perspective of the individual who wants to buy it.
I move. I'm not buying it.
So-
This is Nina.
Nina. And then who was the second? Or
Stafford.
was the third.
Stafford.
Okay, Stafford.
I
Protecting-
thirded it, but I'll be a second for this motion.
John Johnson, is that a reasonable price?
I hate to weigh in on it. I mean, it's going to need some TLC. Now, I was going to have a question to Stafford. Would that include because didn't someone outfit it with an inverter so you could actually run it off a battery pack?
I am not certain on that.
At one point, it had
looks
an
like
inverter. Because
yeah,
it's the old AC, it's old alternating current AC synchronous motor. And at one point, we had an inverter that you could just plug into your, car cigarette lighter, or usually you want to carry a separate 12-volt battery pack, and then you could run it, in right ascension. That's all it had was a motor to drive it in right ascension.
I would have to look for that.
Yeah.
I
see a red box there in that picture. That was probably all the accessories that supposedly went with
that's
it.
the eyepiece and the visual back and stuff like that.
Well, I
But I
think
will
I
have
asked
to
last
see-
night, does it have, as a complete telescope, it should at least have the visual back and probably a diagonal with it.
Now, we had mentioned we might commandeer those for the mead that Louis has in his possession. If you agree that they should go with it, that's not a problem by me.
I mean, I'd love to have the wedge, but if there's not, I have a ton of eyepieces.
And I have an 1.25 inch diagonal that I have sitting around forever. I can donate.
But I see it
I can get it.
Essentially, if you're looking at that picture, essentially everything on the right, the crazy tripod, the wedge, the fork arms, and the tube would be a package deal. The box sitting in front of the car, that was the box that I think Sonali referred to as the magician's box. It's a bit heavy. It's got some old ugly foam in it.
I called it the magician's trunk, John.
The
not
magician's trunk, yeah. to me, that would be the package. You know, kind of like first come, first serve. I have no problem with letting it go for $100.
So the visual back, but no diagonal.
Diagonals are easy to come by. Visual backs may not be as easy to come by.
As I said, I'll donate a diagonal for it.
Or donate the diagonal to the
To
meeting.
the new one, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good thing. If we can conclude the diagonal with this one, then you'd be ready to go.
I think we should include the diagonal. We can get a new diagonal for the scope Louis has.
Sure. All right.
Here's an idea. It's already almost 10 o'clock. Why don't we just move? I think the idea was to make a motion to sell it or not sell it for this meeting. And once we make the motion to sell it, we can figure out the details and it can go up or out in October to Lee or September.
There is already a motion and a second on the floor to sell it for $100.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, a motion has been made by Nina to sell the C8 for $100 and seconded by Stafford. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. All the particulars will have to be by the individuals.
Pony up the bucks there, Lee.
Okay, who do I give the money to?
It should go to the treasurer.
Mike Gallagher.
So is this
okay?
So am I trying to deliver it tomorrow, or
I
is
don't
this
think
going to
that's
wait till September
feasible.
and you can
We
figure
can
out
just
the details?
wait. We can wait till I'm not in a rush, but
Okay.
Okay.
But
yeah, if we can do it in September, I can get everything together for you.
The
plan.
check actually needs to be made out to OAS, not to Mike Gallagher.
Okay.
But sent to the P.O. box. I don't know the number of anymore.
Yeah, John, can you send me that information? Just where to send that and who to make it out to?
The P.O. box is on the back of the Stella.
Okay.
Thank you, Kim.
Okay, Stafford, you can unshare for me.
All right.
We're almost done. One more thing. I'm not sure if I should bring it up. There was discussion at the board meeting about putting in a 6-inch SCT go-to to kind of have more than one of our go-to units. And the 6-inch SCT size is something that we are lacking. 8s and above might be a bit larger for people to deal with. The 4 is nice. It's a little small, but we kind of thought that the 6-inch might be a good fit for those. Is that correct, Steph?
John, this is
Hi, Nina.
suggest that we move that business to next time so that we can close the meeting on time.
Okay. That's good.
John,
Yes.
I have my hand raised.
Yes.
Yeah, I had my hand raised.
I can see it now.
Oh, good. Well, here's what I would recommend, because I'd like to see this happen. I will, between now and the next meeting, look for prices of an SE6 various places and accessories, and bring all that information together so we can make a definitive decision next time.
That sounds great.
Thank you, Steve.
Yep.
I'll put your name, Steve Research. All right. And they're playing the music. It's time to get out of the bar. The next meeting is Friday, September 4th, 2020 on Zoom. Remember, the password is OAS, uppercase. To file a motion, please unmute and state your name. Is there a motion to adjourn the business meeting?
Rodney Boroff, motion.
Rodney.
I second the motion. Joe
Hey,
Shaw.
John, this is Bill. I've got one comment I want to make real quick.
Okay.
For anybody who doesn't know it, about July 21st or so, Tom Wilson had double bypass surgery.
Oh.
Oh my.
Wow.
How's he doing?
I talked to him about a week ago. He's doing really well. But if you want to reach out and give him a phone call, I'm sure he would appreciate it.
Can you send me his number, Bill?
Yeah, I think I can do that.
Okay, thank you.
And Diana, would you like to send a get well card from the OAS?
Yes, if you give me the contact information.
So Bill, could you get that to Diana? Or it's on the
probably in the
it's
roster.
on the spreadsheet in the roster.
Right, it would be on the spreadsheet in the roster of members.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll see if I can find it. If not, I'll get back in touch to you guys.
Okay. Who was the second?
It was Joe Shavlik.
Who was it?
Joe Shavlik, Shavlik.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor of adjourning the business meeting say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Tap, tap.
It's good to
No.
see everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Right.
Bye.
Good night.
Thanks
See
much,
you,
all.
buddy. Bye.
Yep. I'm around
Bye.
to chat too if people want to stick around.
I'm here.
How do you do that? How do you do that?
Stick around?
Yeah, how do you stick around?
Just don't leave the meeting.
Epoxy. I'm
There
going to
you
stop the recording. Do you want to stop the recording?